Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Good morning, Assistant City Manager Ben Woody. I'm going to make a few remarks today, then turn it over to Clay Chandler, our Public Information Officer for the Water Department. He will provide the regular update on the water system restoration. So, as Ms. Campbell said, today marks day 21 since the City of Asheville activated our Emergency Operations Center on September 25th, prior to the arrival of Hurricane Helene. And I have good news. We still have a lot of work to do, but as of this morning, our Water Resources Department has substantially restored non-potable water to our water distribution system. And they've done this under the most difficult circumstances. While not everyone has returned to water service yet, and there's still much work to do, to be completed before we can have full restoration, our crews have made tremendous progress. And so what I want to do today is I want to recognize and thank our Public Works Department and our partners at the North Carolina Department of Transportation. They began removing debris and repairing roads as soon as it was safe to do so. This initial work allowed our Water Resources Department and their contractors to begin assessing and making repairs to the water system. I also want to thank our local contractors, T&K Utilities, Tanoka, TP Howard, and Ed Holmes Surveying. They have been instrumental in making repairs to our primary east-west distribution lines and our 36-inch bypass line. They were able to begin work on September 30th and substantially completed these critical repairs by the early morning of October 10th. And that is a truly remarkable accomplishment by these contractors. And I want to thank our Water Resources Department for their tireless efforts to restore the Asheville water system. We still have a lot of work to do before we can get to full restoration, and Clay Chandler is going to discuss that today. But we would not be in the position we are today without the around-the-clock efforts of our entire Water Resources Department and those employees who have spent the past 3 weeks working night and day to get us to this important point. And finally, I want to thank our community for your patience and resilience through what has to have been the most difficult circumstances for you as well. And I've had this opportunity throughout this event. I've really been able to not only see the best in my coworkers as we've worked through this, but I think I've also seen the best in our community during these really difficult times. And while we continue to reach milestones every day, it's important to remember that there is still much work to be done to not only restore our water system, but to restore our city. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Clay Chandler for today's water system update.
Thank you, Ben. All right. So what we're looking at here is an approximate map, a map that shows the approximate areas that have service. As of yesterday, North Asheville and West Asheville began receiving water. These were sort of the last of what we call our target areas that didn't have at least some degree of water service. Now, obviously, that service will expand as system pressurizes and tanks fill and pump stations start operating. And so while that map looks pretty full, it is not meant to denote that every single person in that service area has service. That is meant to represent that substantial service has returned to those areas. And I'll talk about couple of examples where service has not returned yet, that it might be a little bit of a lengthy process before it does. So this is the Eastmore area, in the area, Old Farm School Road, I think it is. And this was the damage on October the 15th. And so what will happen there is that area was served by a single 6-inch line that Helene completely washed out and that crossed the Swananoa River. And so that line is going to be repaired by our partners at TP Howard, and they should begin to arrive on the site today to begin clearing all that underbrush and all the debris that you can see there. And while that's happening, a temporary pipe will be put in place to give the roughly 75 or so homes that pipe serves some reduced water pressure. I think the temporary pipe is going to be a 2-inch line. And so pressure will be lower there than it normally is. And that neighborhood experiences a little bit of an elevation change. And so obviously air at homes in the lower part of that neighborhood will get service back before homes in the elevated parts do. And it's important that as the homes in the lower elevations receive service, that they conserve water as much as they can, go through your normal flushing routines to deal with the sediment and all of that, but conserve as much as you can to help your neighbors up the hill. See, that's Eastmore. There's the video. So this video is going to show some pretty striking images. That's the Swananoa River as it appears now. That's where the river was before the storm. And that's where the new line will be laid. And so obviously you can see TP Howard contractors are going to have to do some river redirection to create dry work areas while they make that pretty complex repair. Let me go back just one. So while that video loops, I do want to tell you a little bit about our Bee Tree area. So there's still some areas in the Bee Tree that serve our Bee Tree Junction box that obviously received some severe damage. Again, we're talking about an area that serve a single line, 40-ish homes in that Bee Tree area that still don't have water. The water line that serves that area is intact. That's the good news. And our water resources crews have to do some backfilling on that line before it can handle water pressure just for stabilization purposes. That backfilling should be complete by late today or early tomorrow. Now, here's probably the best news of the day. That is at North Fork at our water treatment plant there on October the 15th. And what our watershed superintendent, Jerry, who's on the cherry picker, is taking off of that trailer is the aluminum sulfate that we're going to use for the in reservoir treatment process there. That we hope will reduce the turbidity. Again, that lake was flipped completely upside down by Helene, meaning the sediment on the bottom came all the way to the top and turned what is normally crystal clear, pristine water into something that strongly resembled chocolate milk. So that aluminum sulfate is a salt-ish mineral that we use in our normal treatment processes. It will act as a coagulant to take the millions of and probably billions of clay particles that are suspended in the reservoir, clump them together, make them heavy enough to sink. They'll sink to the bottom, and in the process, that water will clear up from the top down. And that is the caustic soda that will be used in that in-lake treatment process as well. Again, something we use normally under normal circumstances in our treatment and filtration process. And the role the caustic soda will play is it will adjust the pH of the water to get it exactly where it needs to be, so the aluminum sulfate can do its job as a coagulant. Again, clumping all that clay together, making it heavy enough to sink, and clearing the water from the top down. The applicator boat for this, we don't have a picture for this. I wish we did because it arrived on the site this morning. And we are hopeful that the applicator boat will load those 2 treatment chemicals onto it and start spraying them into the water today. That should happen this afternoon if it's not already. And so by Friday, we will have an idea, at least, of how long that treatment process will take. It's just too early to say now with the temperature of the water and the current levels of turbidity, how long that will take. But we should have a pretty good idea, or we hope to have a pretty good idea on Friday. All right, so back to the map. On Monday evening, Water Resources issued a system-wide boil water notice to every customer who is served by the city of Asheville. That includes Mills River and North Fork. This was done out of an abundance of caution because now that North Fork is online, there are mixing zones, especially along those service boundaries in the map that we've shown previously, where water from the two plants can potentially mix. And so, because originally North Fork was on a boil water notice and Mills River was on a boil water advisory, and those are regulatory distinctions, we decided to go ahead and issue a blanket boil water notice for everyone who is served by the city of Asheville. Now, the practical effect for customers remains exactly the same. Any water intended for consumption, drinking, cooking, brushing teeth should be boiled for at least a minute beforehand. Nothing about that changes. The water is safe for laundry, is safe for showering. You don't want to swallow the water while you shower. It's safe for hand washing, with the caveat that if you're cleaning your hands for immediate food prep, after that, you probably need to wash your hands with bottled water or water that has been otherwise purified. Now, washing dishes, if you have a dishwasher with like a sanitized setting that will get that hot wash temperature up to around 170 degrees, you should be perfectly fine to wash your dishes in that. If not, we do have a lengthy FAQ posted on asheville.nc.gov/lean. There are some sort of bleach rinse solutions that you can use if you want to err on the side of caution, you're not sure your dishwasher gets that hot, or you want to hand wash your dishes or something like that. Please visit that FAQ because it goes into great length and detail about what's acceptable as far as dishwashing. And with that, I turn it over to City Manager Campbell again.